Yeah, 3 and a 2 and a 1. I should look at the camera. Oh my God.
Starting strong.
Oh, yes. Right, here we go. Right. Hello, and welcome to the DC United Kingdom podcast. This is season 3, and it's episode 8, and I'm your host, James Graham. Yes, I did balls up the intro once before, but, you know, we're here, and we're going. As you see alongside me, he's returned for the second week in a row. It's Daniel Wise. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. You know, I'm really happy you're bringing me back, especially after the rough showing that I had in the last episode. Putting the Berg in Middlesbrough and calling San Jose San Diego, which are, you know, kind of inscrutable dunks for like sort of not intentional reasons. So, you know,
It's
I
fine.
guess
We'll allow it. It was your first one of the year, so
Yeah.
you're allowed a free pass. So as long as you don't make the same mistakes again,
can only get better from here.
things, as the song goes, things can only get better.
Yes.
It's a wise song, that one. So yeah, how have you been this last week?
You know, we'll get into it, but you know, taking the good with the bad, I suppose. You know, it was all things considered a really relaxing weekend. Spent it with my lady friend, and we didn't do a whole lot. It was very, very nice. One of those, especially for the fact that this summer we're going to be more or less running around with everything. With quarantines lifting and people getting a little more into the flow of travel. Our June and July is going to be absolutely insane. So
yeah,
I think as it stands right now, you know, she's a teacher.
all right,
and she's coming off the end of her year. So, you know, she's been dealing with a whole lot. And, you know, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So, Adrian, I love you. And, you know, thank you for doing what you're doing. But, you know,
big up the teachers. Big up
absolutely,
the teachers.
Absolutely. But yeah, we just kind of took it easy. And I think that's what we're going to be doing until things start to really pick up. So yeah, that's what's been going on. But like I said, good with the bad. I felt a little bit pessimistic about the DC United San Jose game, but obviously not pessimistic enough.
I think they heard that the fact that you called them San Diego, and they really wanted to put it to you.
Is there a San Jose UK, SJ UK?
There isn't. No, there is no
isn't.
San Jose UK. So you're lucky on that one. You might have had a bit of a ribbon after that. But no, there's no one. I don't know why. There's not one for every team over here at the moment. So we do need to increase it. So if you're out there in the UK and for some reason you're not supporting DC United, feel free to set something up for one of the other teams that don't have it. But search for hashtag MLS UK to see all the great content from all the MLS UK people, because there is some great stuff out there. But yeah, we probably should talk about that San Diego game. I am going to stick with saying San Diego because it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I wanted to say something, but I was just like, I'm just going to let it roll, see if anybody else picks it up. And it did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a very eagle-eared member of the supporter group chat.
Yes.
He was very much on top of that, which not a whole lot gets by him. His name is escaping me at the moment, but he is very, very sharp.
He is indeed. Right. So we probably should talk about that last game. So let me just but before we do, let's do that. Let's run over our score predictions. So in the last show that you were on, before the San Diego game, you decided that you would think DC United would do a 1-1 draw. You were wrong. But so was I, because, you know, I thought we would win. And that clearly did not happen. So neither of us get any points for last week. So, but we'll come on to the next prediction later on in the show. let's run some stats from that game. So obviously the scoreline was an unfortunate 4-1. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
that one quietly, but we did win on the possession stats. I mean, the actual stats were 47.5% to 52.5%. Um, we won on the total amount of shots. We had 18 attempts on goal to San Diego's 12. And but they did win on the on target front, so they had 9 shots on target to our 7. But we did draw on the fouls, so we had 13 fouls apiece, which is a lot less than the previous game, where we were having a free kick given every other minute, which was just ridiculous. Um, One stat I did see, actually, and I haven't written it down in our show notes, but there was no offsides. That's a crazy stat.
In comparison to, I think, what was it, the Revs game, where it seemed as though the ref was blowing his whistle at
Mm,
every single opportunity. This game was brisk.
yeah,
For me, if I were to kind of sit someone down and show them, a good version of soccer where players are doing what they're supposed to,
yeah,
staying up, playing right, it's one of the kind of easier games to watch where
yeah.
the action just sort of flows, and that was something that we definitely saw in
Yeah,
this game.
I think the referees have a lot to have a part to play in that. So that was good. Expected goals. I always like looking at this one. Ever since it was brought in on my favorite football management game, Football Manager. Shout out to that for helping me become a DC United fan. Um, and it was San Jose had 1.5 goals expected to our 1.6. So realistically, this game should have been a draw, and I don't think anyone would have argued if that was the case, because we did have a couple of good chances, and we will talk about that in a brief moment. But um, yeah, that was a bit of a shock to me, especially the scoreline at the end of the game. Shortly after, when I tweeted out, I did think it flattered San Jose quite a lot because it was. I thought we had plenty of chances, as is rightly shown in the amount of attempts on goal that we had. We
Mhm.
didn't play all that badly. It was just moments of madness, like Junior Moreno playing a dummy, which I don't
Yes.
understand what he was doing on the first goal for that. Um, we were very slow out the blocks. Then Briant showed his age. He couldn't keep up
Yeah.
with Cowell. That was unfortunate. It's it was going to happen at some point. He's old. I think he's 35, so
Yeah.
his legs are going to be gone. Um, and then I think was it the last goal that we should have when Soga missed that open opportunity,
Yeah.
and then they went straight down the other end and made it 4-1. So we went from what should have been 3-2 to 4-1. But yes, what did you make of the game overall? How did you see it? Were you of the same impression as me as it should have been a draw, maybe, or do you think San Jose had enough about them to win that game?
To be completely honest, my take is very different.
Yeah.
For one thing, from the start, I think San Jose showed a completely different tone, in terms of aggression, directness,
Mm.
and overall, um, I think organization
Okay.
than DC United. I felt like the teams played at two very different speeds.
Mm.
DC United, to a certain degree, is still not quite reaching that cutting edge in the attacking third.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. Yeah.
still seeing a lot of misconnections. Whether you're sort of seeing, it could be just one thing. Having Nyman out there, 17 years old, very
Yeah.
talented,
Very.
but doesn't quite have, I would say, the vision
No. No. No.
for that
I would
midfield
agree with
role.
that. Yeah. But that will come with experience.
Absolutely. But I think what you saw was a lot of work between Gressel and Assad.
Mm.
You had a lot of passing. In fact, kind of looking at your sort of passing network sheet here,
Yeah.
you just see that those two were really working well among each other.
Yeah.
Gressel very aggressively making his runs downfield,
Yes.
and I think was a huge bright spot in the game.
Yeah.
And to a degree, I will say, and by extension, Sorga is still pretty high on my list in terms of like players I look out for
Yeah.
in how they move around the field, how they try to get
Yes.
open. And this is the heartbreaking thing because Sorga, I think, really has a nose for the lanes that a number 9 should be looking for,
Yeah.
making his runs. But the unfortunate thing is that nobody is really picking him out.
Yeah. I mean,
And that is very, very frustrating because, there were a couple times that DC had some really nice breaks, catching San Diego's defense on the back heel.
yeah.
And Sorga had a couple really, really nice runs where he had space, and all, like, I want to say, like, Assad had to do was kind of look over and
Yeah.
get a ball to him, and he would have made a big contribution. But unfortunately, that's just not how things shaped out. And so it's just the same story, that the offense, or so the downfield players are not quite finding each other,
Yeah.
and we're having to get goals from defenders,
Yes.
which our one and only goal came from Alfaro. So newcomer to DC,
Yeah.
and great to have him, but man, that
Yeah.
this is frustration that has been somewhat percolating, for the better part of whenever we lost Rooney. you know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so that's just something that, once we lost that, I don't know, this team has felt somewhat lost.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to fix that going forward, but we can kind of get into that once we sort of start kind of fantasy footballing
Yes.
the Columbus game. But
Yeah.
yeah, sort of getting in depth, what did you sort of see? Obviously we kind of have two different visions,
Yeah.
so what were some of the brighter spots that you were picking out in this game?
I mean, for me, I mean, the Saga thing is a bright. It's a bright spot and a dark spot at the same time. Obviously, the dark spot, as I've already said, is that missing that open goal opportunity,
Yeah.
and the fact that it was called out twice in the post-match press conference. Once from Lasada, didn't call Eric out by name, but
Yeah.
mentions the situation.
Yeah.
And then Felipe saying that you had a word with Sorga at the end of the game, just saying,
Yeah.
what the heck were you doing? You should have just put your laces through it, which is absolutely right. He
Yeah.
should have put his laces through it rather than trying to pass it in there. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. As long as he takes the learnings and the fact that he should just put his laces through it. I mean,
Yep.
he knows where the back of the net is. He scored many times in his career so far. Granted, it was in the Estonian league, and that's a different level. Probably not quite as good as MLS, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But he knows where the back of the net is, and I had quite high hopes for his confidence. But the runs that he makes, his close control, he is an Estonian Messi for that side of things.
Yeah.
He's always pressing. He's putting the effort in. I think he's in the top 10 for distance covered in the league. It shows you, and when you look at our passing network that I've got on our show notes,
Yeah.
he's actually not quite central. He's off to the left.
Yes.
Which shows you he's moving that in towards those channels, which is what you need from that type of striker.
Yeah.
But I think he would be, so much more effective if he had a second striker alongside him. So rather than us playing the 3-4-3, I would like to see us play a 3-5-2. I think that would be much more beneficial for Eric Sorga. But granted, we only had 4 outfield players on the bench.
Yeah.
I think that might have been contributing to our downfall in that game. The fact that we couldn't really bring proper fresh legs on. Knaus was apparently feeling the side effects from having his COVID jab. So he should be back for this weekend's fixture.
Yeah.
Roberta picked up a minor muscle injury, and who else was supposed to be in there but wasn't? Oh, I can't remember. There was somebody else, but who was a late. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, so we only had 4 outfield players. Obviously, John Kempen, the goalkeeper, on the bench, which he probably should have just been an outfield player. Probably would have done a job for us. Just whack him up top for the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the darkest point in this whole entire season is our injury list right now. I think it's 11 players at the moment, might be 12 now. It's just
13 at my count.
13. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's quite high.
Granted, I think the actual number is 12 because when they were sort of talking about the injury list, they had Knaus in there.
Yeah.
But like you said, a very temporary thing. But still, having roughly, half the team out.
It's a full
like
lineup.
That, it's
genuinely a full lineup because you've got Bill, who's the only other keeper so you got your goalkeeper, you've got defenders, you've got Pines, you've got Birnbaum.
Yeah.
Aduiach, Ariola's out. Roberta's out. Kamara's out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. Kevin's out. Griffin's out. There's your lineup right there.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. But I think once we got those players back, we'll be laughing. It might take us a few games to bed them in and the new system and everything. But a bright spot. Let's just quickly go back to that because I only gave Soga as a bright spot. Felipe coming back.
Yes.
I know it was mentioned on the Tried and True podcast about him. He was voted as their main man of the match. Granted, he was only on for 45 minutes, but that says a lot about him as a player. But the comeback that he's had. So he's been out for what, 7-8 months?
Yeah.
He's come back. He played well. He covered a lot of ground. He looked energetic. He looked pumped up for it. He didn't stop believing that we could have got something out of it.
Yep.
If you look back to when he first joined and the fans' opinion of him then, which was pure hatred, and there was not a fan that I would not speak to, and they wouldn't have a good word to say about him because obviously what happened in the past. And I was just like, well, that was in the past. He was playing for another guy. He's playing for us now. Surely you should give him a second chance and show him what he can do for the black and red. And look what he's done. And he's just been phenomenal.
Who am I trying to think of? The old Barcelona player who went to Real and came back and people were throwing, what was it, pig heads and whatnot at him.
Was that Figo?
Figo, that's right. Yeah. Yes. So, I think it's a double effect of one, he was a Red Bull.
Yeah.
And 2, an absolute villain.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah.
And it was quite one of those things. But I think he's one of those guys where regardless of where he is, he's not a mercenary. He's going to come in. He's going to absolutely ingratiate himself to the fans, to the culture, to the locker room, and he's done a fantastic job of that.
Yeah, I think anyone who would have said back in those early times he'd be a fan favorite, I think a lot of people would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
But now he is a firm fan favorite. He's one of my favorite players. He's one of my favorite people. Felipe, if you're listening or if you're watching, I need you back on for the 3rd appearance. I need your hat-trick appearance on the show. Come on, let's make it happen. And we would need to talk about your comeback. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's just a one-of-a-kind person. He's just an absolute legend, and I think he will go down no matter whether if he was to leave at the end of the season or if he stays until the end of his career. I think he will go down as a fan favorite player.
Yeah,
a bit of a cult hero. Let's put it that way. Right.
He'll be at least my number 2 to Branko Boskovic.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
He's my favorite kind of weird player that I deeply admire for some odd reason. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, Felipe is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next up on our list of things to talk about,
Yeah.
we've talked about the fact that we only had 4 players out on the bench, 4 outfield players with 1 keeper. We've covered our positives and negatives. What would you have done differently in this game to make the result happen in our favor?
Gosh,
I know it's a big question, that one, isn't it?
it's a big question, and I think um,
Apart from
it's
having every player fit.
yes, it's I am not much of an armchair manager type. For me, I am probably an idiot to suggest anything else that any legitimate manager could say. But I think I really like what Lasada is really trying to instill in
Yep.
this club. He's blunt, and I think what he's really trying to do is he's trying to figure out, who are the players that are going to buy into this,
Yep.
and he's given a really fair assessment. I think
Yeah.
he's been quite honest in talking about how fit the players are. Bless Ben Olsen, he never really got direct about that.
Mm.
You I talked to him a couple times, and sometimes you get from him
Yeah.
about how he'd feel going into the season. But he more or less kind of kept things, I think, under the roof, or at least within the locker room.
Yeah.
Lasada is definitely not afraid to call out players, and I think
No.
that's the basis of coming in as a fresh coach, and wanting to figure out, okay, who am I going to keep around? Who am I? I think this is a project for him,
Yeah.
and he's going to be direct because he wants to know, who can I offload with no sort of pretense, and who's going to stick around.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was telling someone kind of like a day after the game on Twitter that this is a 2-year thing.
Yeah.
I don't think this team will be legitimately I think title competitive for about 2 years,
Okay.
because I think he is trying to shift the culture
Yes.
around. I think, partially this is a team that someone enjoys the nightlife from time to time,
Yeah.
not in an irresponsible way, but I think in a way that under a coach like Lasada is not necessarily going to fly.
Yes.
And he's definitely called out players for their habits, or how they've spent their off seasons. Um,
Yes. I
you know,
heard that. That was pretty brutal.
and fair enough. And gosh, back when we had Rooney around, there were some whisper, or not necessarily whispers, but talk that got out about certain things, and
Yes.
and uh I can't imagine a lot of that has had changed over the past 2 or 3 years.
No.
So with this whole culture shift, I think players are going to have to adjust, and they're going to have to change a lot of the ways that they do things, or else they'll be out. And I think that
Yeah.
is what the gaffer is really sort of throwing out there. You either get into this, or I don't really have a use for you.
Yeah.
And so to a degree, I think he's got the right approach. I would have started Felipe over Nyman.
Okay.
I think, considering the energy he brought to the game, that would have been a much better element to have at the start.
Yeah.
Nyman, like I said, good player, but you in this type of situation, you need as much veteran power out there as much, the
Yeah.
mental power. Andy Nahar, I think it would have been more beneficial to maybe move Mora to that inside where Moreno is, and have Nahar take that
Okay.
wing. Nahar is, and obviously, he's had his own injury issues. But I think having kind of like that dual threat on the wings, and I'm more, I don't necessarily think he's that much of a threat on that side.
No, and again, we'll go
And
back to our passing network, and you
yeah,
look at the Mora's position on there.
yeah,
It's in line with Alfaro and Briant, which shows that he didn't really make his way up that left side of the pitch.
for sure.
When you look on the opposite side, Gressel,
Absolutely up in there.
he's up there with Sorga and Flores, and
Yeah,
it's just you need, if you're going to attack, you got to do both sides. You got to have that um, ability to switch things up, and the fact that you're just going down the one side.
yeah.
Granted, that might have actually been a key focus for Lasada in the build up, is the fact that they might have been weaker on that particular side, but switch it up every now and again.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's I guess going on to when I'm a virtual manager
Oh
is
yeah,
whenever I'm putting together teams, I always try to have just that speedy threat on the
yeah,
wings, especially having, and I think this is totally a component of Gressel, is someone who can kind of get to that inside and try to find space, because he definitely was not afraid to dribble inside, attack aggressively, and as you say, put his laces through the ball.
yeah,
Had a really nice shot, sort of early on in the game, or maybe a
yes,
little bit later, but he shows that he's definitely willing to get in there.
yeah,
So yeah, I think having Nahar fit, ready to go, is going to be a plus for us. And like I said, I think bringing in Felipe uh, early on, whether or not he gets subbed out earlier
okay,
than necessary
yeah,
or whatever, I think just having that early threat, because it's kind of getting into the Quincy,
yes,
I'm in your head. He is that kind of player where you need that presence early in the game,
yeah,
to set a tone and get in
yes.
some other players' heads, because it is a psychological battle as much as it's a physical battle.
Yeah, and I think hopefully in the next few games, we'll see Felipe starting, and I think our season so far has been a story of very slow starts.
Yeah.
We've conceded twice in the opening 15 minutes of the game in 3 games. Says that we're not getting off to a quick start, and hopefully someone like Felipe on there on the pitch alongside Knaus
Yeah.
will shore that up and be able to dictate the game from early doors.
To be fair, this San Diego team is very insane on that which side, on that left side,
Yeah.
where you you have Fierro, you have
Oh
Yule,
yes.
Lopez, and Cowell.
Yeah.
In fact, that was kind of hilarious. Early in the supporter group chat, someone was like, "Oh, right, they have Yule," and everyone was like, "Oh
Yeah.
no!"
Yeah.
And he made his stamp on the
Oh
game, and I
yeah.
even felt it too, because I watched that Honduras game for the Olympic qualifying, and the way he kind of put the U23 team on his back and really like
Yeah.
tried to carry that into a win. I was like, oh no, this is gonna go real sideways, I think. And that what was it, that third or second
The third
goal, no,
goal.
third goal,
Yeah.
off the volley, um
Yeah.
kind of tripping. I don't know if that was intentional, or if he was trying to position, or if he genuinely slipped up and put himself sideways like that. um but man, I really felt for Chris Seitz in this
Yeah.
game. Tough goals. Cowell and Lopez really just kind of put really cheeky kind of rockets right
Yes.
into his near post where he probably wasn't
He,
expecting
sh-
that.
he should have had that covered.
You should
He
have.
should have had, as a goalkeeper, one of the first things you get taught is
Speaking
cover
from
your near
experience.
post.
Yes.
You don't let goals in at your near post. It's a common
Yeah.
thing that happens, and gets said on Football Manager as one of the little written commentaries. He'll be
Right.
disappointed he was beaten at his near post. And Chris Sites should be like the daddy is. He shouldn't be angry. He should be just disappointed.
Yes. And like we said with the light sides and dark sides here,
Yes.
bearing in mind he also just had some really intense saves
Mm,
to his own right.
yeah.
Cowell definitely just had a bead on him a few times, and I think Yule as well,
Yeah.
where he just came in uh, kind of facing a firing squad in this game,
Yeah.
and he held up. The 4-1 score line really doesn't quite show quite how much, like, he really tried. It's a terrible scoreline, but I don't think that should be entirely reflected on him. There were a lot of things that fell apart, especially with the fact that the defense showed their age, showed their
Yeah.
pace
Yes.
against this incredibly fast team, and really left sights on an island there for a few of those goals.
No, definitely. Should we leave the San Diego chat there now?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Should we move on to Columbus friends?
Ah,
Sorry, Columbus crew. There we go. Columbus gang. Any other names out there? Do you want to
the
give Columbus a
the
new name?
the yellow football team, as
The
the supporter groups love to call them.
yes.
Um,
Then there was the show that's the MLS UK show. Henry's missus. I think she called them the bees.
the bees,
The
I like
bees.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
So yeah. So next up, Columbus crew on
the
Saturday.
Barbasol bees.
Oh yes, why not? Let's go with that. It's at a normal time of kickoff for me.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That is
For all of us over here on this side of the pond, it's kicking off at 6:38 p.m. to be exact. Because why can't it just be 6? The time is advertised at 6:30, but
yeah.
So over on the eastern side, it's a 1:30 kickoff for you, Daniel. I believe it's a 12:30 kickoff.
12:30 Central
Yes,
Time. That's
Central.
correct. Yep.
So a great time for us, for everyone, I think,
Yes.
involved. That means my little boy, he will be able to dissect his probably the first half an hour before he goes to bed, of DC United's live coverage.
Oh, that's
Yes.
lovely.
Granted, it's not being shown over here in the UK on national television, so we will have to tune in via other methods. I'm not saying
Yeah.
whether it's legal or not, but it's other methods. But yeah, so we will be tuning in and hopefully hearing Dave Johnson screaming it in the net a few times.
Or maybe some Russian dude.
Or just zero commentary at all.
Or zero, yes.
Because that was what I had to do a fair few times last season, which was watch it on betting websites, and you got the stream in 240p. So not even standard definition, zoomed in on my iPad to try and even get any kind of glimpse of it, and it was just crowd noise. And that time, well, fake crowd noise. And then in some of the games, you just heard Ben Olsen screaming his head off on the sidelines. It was great. I loved that. But yes, so we got Columbus Crew this weekend. We are on the road again this is our final game on the road, I believe, before we're back home, which I'm looking forward to. But let's a little bit of breakdown previous games in MLS for Columbus Crew. So they've played 2, drawn 2, scored none, which means obviously they've conceded no goals. The previous game was against Club de Foot or Club Foot de Montreal, whichever way it goes around these days. They had an expected goal, because this is a thing I love to look at, as I mentioned earlier, of 0.2. So they were rocking it They'd just come back off the game against Monterrey,
Mhm.
which was at home as well. So it wasn't like they tried to travel cross country
Right.
for that one. And then the previous game in that was against Philly Union, but they did have an expected goal of 1.3. Now, they do have that road game against Monterrey. By the time this show goes out, they'll have already played it last night. So either they had a shocking game last night and there'll be one to bounce back, or they're on a high and we can take advantage because they'll be thinking it's only DC United. That's how we're going to put it out there. But as we're recording on May the 4th be with you, I had to get the Star Wars reference in there.
Yes. Nicely played.
Thank you.
Little through ball on the
just to
on
sneak
Star
it in
Wars.
there.
Yeah.
I've lost my train of thought. Yes, they've got that road game, which is down in Monterrey. They'll be traveling back, and there's only 2 days difference between the games, which for me that's a good thing because we've had to go through that many times over the last few seasons where we've had like 9 games in 27 days. So MLS scheduling is just absolutely barbaric. I don't understand why we're not playing on Sunday. To be fair to Columbus, I think this game should be played on a Sunday. You look at in Europe when you've played in the Mickey Mouse Europa League, which is usually on a Thursday night.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't know why I said Mickey Mouse because that's the tournament that Middlesbrough played in, or Middlesbrough.
Okay.
But we got to the final.
I thought you were like dunking on the Carling Cup or something like.
Oh no, that was. I mean, the Carling. Sorry, what's it called now? The Carabao Cup.
The Carabao, yes.
Energy drink tournaments. But it was was it the Carling Cup when Middlesbrough won it? I think it was. Yeah, it was the Carling Cup. It's known as the Mickey Mouse Cup over here. So it's not the big FA Cup. But yeah, so Europa League stuff is played on the Thursday, and generally Man United will then play on the Sunday. Slight burn there. Or they might not play, depending on if they've had a protest or not.
An insurrection, if you will.
All it takes is 200 fans to protest and the game gets called off. Man, that's insane. But that's for another show, on another podcast of some kind.
I'm a little bit bitter that what was it? NBC Sports cut in for about half of the second half of the Arsenal game.
No,
just double screen, talking nothing of the Arsenal game. They are just, and it's literally like it was fans in the concourse. Maybe I'm spoiled as an Arsenal fan, and maybe, I shouldn't be thinking, as highly as maybe I should, because, they've obviously lost the luster, but you're going to, and yes, they weren't in a big high stakes match, but still, double boxing the Arsenal, and there's no one even on the pitch at Old Trafford. They're up in the concourse, and it's like, what are you doing? And they've got like John Champion or something, like just basically kind of ad-libbing for about 20 minutes. And I'm
were you a little bit angry?
A little bit, because I'm just like, look, it's over. Can we get back to what we're doing? They just got to make a deal out of it. Good, because they were blacking out social media, so they obviously had to put it somewhere.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, big fan of the blackout of the social media over this last weekend. The abuse that footballers get over on social media is absolutely abysmal. I don't understand why people would do that. You wouldn't do it to someone on the street, so why would you do it on social media?
Right.
Yeah. But
they had to put it somewhere. They had to double box the Arsenal game.
Oh no. But they didn't do that over here anyway.
No. But back to the important matters here.
Yes. The game against Columbus Friends.
Yes. Barbasol bees.
Yes. So yeah, as we've mentioned about 1,001 times now, because we keep going off on a tangent. Yeah, they're coming up against Monterrey 2 days prior to the game. Um, it looks like Zelarayan will be available for our game. He's obviously that big player. He had
Yes.
a huge season for the Crew last season. There's a lot of talk between comparisons between him and Edison Flores.
Hmm.
I remember reading up or hearing about you would pick Edison Flores, and then you look how the season shaped out. That was the wrong call. And Zelarayan has just been an absolutely fantastic player for the Crew.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling to kind of think of how one this game could go, but two, obviously, what type of lineup they're going to put out because they had a 2-2 draw in the first leg at home. So Monterrey have got 2 away goals in the bag. Now,
Hmm.
do Columbus go all out for this one and try and reach the semi-finals of the CCL? So they put out their strongest lineup available, and then they're tired for our game, or do they have one eye on our game and MLS as general and try and defend their trophy?
So how I would say this is that after this Monterey game, they don't have another Champions League game until August.
Hmm.
So if I am the Columbus, coach, I
Hmm.
am definitely going to consider that and probably, yeah, put that full. In fact, all things considered, I think with it being a home game for them, I think you put out, I think, similar looks for
Yeah.
both games.
Okay.
And I think you just play some smarter, more defensive soccer against DC United.
Yeah.
And just depending on how things go, how the fitness looks, you just make some smart subs
Yeah.
against DC, and you sort of try to ride that out as best you can.
Yeah.
Um, which I think, I think some teams are going to be really sleeping on DC United. And I think
Yes.
rightfully so, just with the current situation as it
Yeah.
is. I think you see that DC's wounded and you go for that Champions League.
Yeah.
And I think, depending on how things go, if players stay healthy, I think you give that similar look against DC and you just park the bus and you sort of ride that out, because obviously you're seeing United can't quite figure out that attacking third.
Yeah.
And then sort of capitalize that and work on just sort of building up, maintaining possession.
Yeah.
That's where yeah, I think San Diego, they absolutely trounced us in possession in the first part of that game.
They did.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think if you just, I think to a certain degree, they lost focus, and I think DC, really started to come back. But
Yeah.
I think you're just going to have a stronger mentality coming from Sandy or from Barbasol. Uh,
Yeah.
especially since it's a home game, regardless of the fact that they'll be traveling down to Mexico.
Yeah.
You come back, you rest up for those days, and you just, you know, hit the
Yeah.
field with the best mentality that you can.
Yeah. So to me, that sounds like that's going to play into our advantage, especially with the way we play or the way that Lasada wants to bring football to DC is the fact that he wants the high press, he wants the energy.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have maybe a player or two back from injury ready for this game as well. That could really work into our hands. I think Griffin's pretty much there, ready to play for this game. We'll have Canals back, hopefully Roberta.
Yeah.
We might actually have a normal bench. We can dream. We can dream
We
on
can
that one.
dream.
We can dream. Um, it's starting to look promising. I think it could be a good game for us. I think, and maybe Jack will be a lucky omen for us. Sorry,
that
that Jack's my son.
I yes. No, if Jack brings that sort of luck, I would surely appreciate it.
Yes.
Um, but I think, when we come to our predictions for this game, sadly, and I don't think the attacking woes get figured out in the span of a week. It's going to be until the quality players come back
Yeah.
and the system gets sort of built up. I really don't think we see the team really connecting with each other until
Yeah.
about midsummer.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. And we saw it in the last game. Assad and Flores just weren't connecting at all.
No.
I know there was one key moment. I could have thrown my keyboard, which would have meant I would have thrown my laptop at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was Assad. I mean, Flores was like 3-4 yards away from him. Yet he absolutely smashes the ball, and I'm just thinking, all you had to do was just look out the corner of your eye and you would have seen him. And you just had to just gently play it to him, not smash it as if he's going to sprint 100 yards to go and chase the ball.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that them two in particular need to work on, communication and the chemistry. Once that starts firing, I mean, Flores, bless him, he's working his absolute ass off each game so far. He's been right at the top of the distance covered. It's only going to be a matter of time before he gets his first goal.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. I think I reckon next 2-3 games we will see Flores start scoring.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, mine too. I want to see some attacking players actually score for us.
What? No, whoa. Okay. I mean, I was dreaming. You're asking for a miracle. I mean, last season, Pines was our top scorer.
That's what. I mean, I can imagine. Lasada is probably saying the same thing. I think he's trying to light some fires. Something's got to give. To a degree.
Yeah.
There are two things that happen this weekend.
Yeah.
Someone on DC United in the upfield scores.
Yes.
Finally. Or Columbus, finds their ability to score on an MLS team this season.
Yeah. We don't want that.
No, but when we come to our predictions, you're going to be very sad with what I have to say.
And speaking of which, we have come to that time of predictions. So make me sad, Daniel. Make me sad.
There are... I know I have to make a decision, and my final decision is going to be 2-0 Columbus. I firmly believe we're going to get blanked on this game. I think our defense is showing way too many holes, and just an inability to transition. I think even with our midfielders, they were playing almost a step behind San Diego last week, where it was, like I said, it was watching two different speeds on the field. And I just do not see that improving for this game, especially for the fact that it is an away game in Columbus at Map Free 2 is how I'll call that stadium.
I'm sure I saw that it's it's not map free anymore.
No, it's I think it's just Columbus Crew Stadium.
It has a new name.
No, okay.
Just quickly,
what's the?
I'm just gonna bring it up. It is called the Historic Crew Stadium.
That's right.
It's always gonna be. What a naff name is that?
Always gonna be Map Free.
Historic Crew. Just because you move into a new one. You just can't just call it. It's historic now. I mean, the scoreboard is a bit burnt, but it's got history.
Historic Map Free Stadium.
Jeez.
I will always dunk on Ohio, but regardless, I just do not see DC coming away with any points in this game. I think you're going to have Zellarian. Yeah. I think Zoran is going to absolutely. He scored, against Monterrey. Monterrey is a top Mexican team,
They are, yeah.
and they are no joke. A team I love to tune into.
Okay.
At like 10:30 at night when they're on ESPN. They're just super fun to watch. And I just, whew, I do not see us coming out
Oh,
on the upside on
oh,
this way. I hope I'm proven wrong.
yeah,
I hope things go different. I really would love to see some points come out of this,
yeah,
but we typically do not perform well in Columbus, whatever reason that is.
yeah,
But we seem to just hit a brick wall when we get out there. Columbus, they love playing at home,
yeah,
and um, but like I said, there are two ways I see this, and obviously, I've made my decision,
yeah,
but I think we avoid that 2-0 drubbing if Lasada brings the veterans on the field,
yeah,
and with Nahar and Felipe, and getting rid of Moreno and putting Mora
yeah.
in that position. I think we have a better result. I
Okay.
think we still lose 1-2, but I think at least we're going to show a harder fight. Now,
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope this take ages like milk. Um,
Oh,
but I do. I don't. There, you can't really convince me that on week 3, you're going to have a all of a sudden DC is going to gel together, and you're going to see a different thing. If our defending players are showing the greatest threat on the field, it's just not going to happen.
yeah. So I'm going to be the shining light on this podcast.
Bring me off the edge.
I'm going to
Bring me
I'm going
home.
to bring the optimism. So for
Okay.
me, it's all down to the fact that Columbus, they're going to be they're traveling obviously to Mexico and back. They're probably going to be doing that on the space of probably travel out on the Wednesday, I'd imagine. Come back either late on Thursday night or on Friday, which means they're not going to get much training time for our game. Um, their focus isn't going to be there. I think we need to get that quick start. If we don't get that quick start, I can see it being a 0-0 draw. And that
Okay.
will be Lasada's first ever 0-0 draw. So I'm going to just wipe that out because that's never going to happen. This is Lasada we're talking about. There's goals in every single game. Um,
Okay.
I'm going to say I'm going to be overly confident because I can't be any other way. I'm going to see us doing a 2-0 win. I'm going to say Crew are not going to score an MLS goal in their first 270 minutes of game.
That is
That's confident.
incredibly
I
confident.
mean, people out there are going to say that I am delirious. I am,
I'm already saying that. I think you're
yep,
delirious.
yeah, that I'm on a different planet. But,
I
if
would
you,
say a different solar system, but hey, keep going.
yeah, um, I always back the lads to do it, and
Yeah.
that's a fantastic football manager saying. Stu, Andy, I know you're going to be watching this. Back me up on this, or put it in the comments that it is an FM saying. I always back my lads to do well. I know Crew are the current reigning champions, but the fact that in their previous game, off the back of playing a home tie
Mm.
um, against Monterrey, and their expected goals was 0.2.
Yeah.
Granted, Montreal have started rather well. We'll give them that, which I don't think anybody was expecting. But I just find it really difficult to see how they're going to play it on a Thursday night, then playing again on Saturday lunchtime, and actually bring that level of performance that they need to do anything in this game. Um, and I think we've seen it throughout MLS over the last decade, MLS teams generally don't do well when they're playing in the CCL. They always
Yeah.
seem to struggle. We've seen it with Atlanta United. We've seen it with Philly so far this season. They've not done particularly great this so far. So I think we can pull a surprise here.
Like I said, and bear in mind, as pessimistic as I said, or
Yeah.
made my prediction,
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong. That's where my mentality is at. Is that
I hope
if
you're wrong.
I'm wrong,
Yeah.
I would love it.
I mean,
Absolutely.
all right, Kevin Keegan. I would love it if we beat them. I would love it.
Oh, that's a great poll.
I,
Very nice.
he's a nice little thing for you. I've met him. I've met
Really?
Kevin Keegan where I used to
Oh,
play golf. He is a short ass. He is so tiny. His hair makes up half a foot. I swear. He
wow.
has such big hair. But yeah, it's where I used to play golf.
Okay.
Posh golf course. Don't play. I'm not there anymore because no, it's like 230 mile away. But he owns the house that was on by the 17th green and the 18th tee. It's called
Hmm.
Wynyard Golf Club. It held a European Tour tournament, the Sevi Trophy. That was fantastic to actually be able to be a part of that and be a steward. That was awesome. But I've met so many footballers. I've met many Middlesbrough players over the years. I've met I've met an Arsenal legend, Ray Parler.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually got on like house on
Wow.
fire. Actually, we spent many times having a good chat in the clubhouse. Um, French fullback Frank Coudreau. There was a weird thing I remember him saying. So, when you buy around, what do you generally buy if you're going to a bar or something like that? You buy a round of beers.
Oh no.
No?
No, you get a round of shots. You
Oh,
get
okay.
people
But
going.
it's alcohol, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So according to Frank Coudreau, oh God, I don't know why I pronounce it like that. Jeez. Um, Buying a round in France is buying a round of meals. So all he did was just buy everyone food.
Ooh,
That was great.
that's expensive.
Not for him. He was a
But
Premiership
exactly.
footballer.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I met a ton of Niall Quinn. He used to
No.
play. He used to play for Man City and Sunderland. He was a 6'5" striker, Irish.
Wow.
For those who listen in the UK, you probably know who that is if you're an older person. Gary Pallister, former Man United centre back. I've played a couple of holes with him. Lee Cattermole, beat him in a tournament. That was enjoyable. Former
Wow.
Middlesbrough and Sunderland player. Absolute piece of work on the football pitch. He was
Mhm.
aggressive.
Mhm.
Obviously, Kevin Keegan. I'm trying to think of well. I've saved a penalty against Thomas Sorensen, former Denmark international goalkeeper. So
That's a resume right there.
I know those are the days. I was only a young spring chicken back then, but
Yeah.
yeah, I loved that. I loved that those days. They were good. I didn't have a care in the world. All I had to do was play golf.
You don't get that a whole lot in South Dakota. That
I can't
is,
imagine you would.
the brushes with stardom are few, if any.
Yeah. Are the brushes with stars generally the ones in the sky?
Yes.
Sorry. I
Oh,
had to put
but
that one in there.
yeah.
Right. Let's go back to MLS. I was thinking
Yes.
soccer, but we need to actually go back to MLS. So, for you, we want to talk about the opening part of the season. So we've had 3 games so far, but
Mhm.
which particular player has been the highlight for you so far?
Gressel.
Yeah.
I think he is the player who just comes into every game ready to work.
Yeah.
And to a degree, like number 2, like Flores is right there. just kind of bring a Americanism here. They bring their lunch pails. They
So
come to
they
work.
bring
They
their
do their
what?
job.
Their
Their
lunch
lunch
what?
pails. Their lunch pails. Yeah,
What the heck is that?
the boxes, the
A
bins,
lunchbox.
the lunchbox. But yeah, no, they are absolute workmen
Yeah.
who come in and regardless of what's happening, they try to maintain a certain level of focus and intensity,
Yeah.
and they don't back down. So Gressel absolutely has been great.
Yeah.
Flores is up there, but just overall, it's kind of inconsistent
Yeah.
or outright mediocre, when you kind of look at the field and you see an entire midfield unit just kind of being flat-footed
Yeah.
and not necessarily transitioning as fluidly as Losada's system really requires
Yeah.
players to be, that fluid. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are two huge bright spots, and I think once we start getting a healthy squad back,
Yeah.
and hopefully a sort of transition happens where the health and fitness is greater. I know
Yeah.
there was some rumblings about, I think it was Areola who said something about running the players too much is going to hurt them or whatever. I'm not going to say anything to Areola, but it's just that's part of the job description right there.
You got to run.
Is you got to run,
Yeah.
and especially under this system,
Yeah.
I think it just all of the players are absolutely going to have to buckle down and change their sort of ways of thinking and how they approach this,
Yeah.
because otherwise, yeah, they'll find themselves out, and you saw that, oh god, the MLS Reddit was kind of dunking on this guy who played for Atlanta United,
Mm.
and he's now dropped down. He was in USL, but now he's down even further
Oh,
to
right.
a different league. But he was, a few years ago, 17, 18 years old or something, and
Yeah.
youth national team star, looked to be kind of the future.
Yeah.
Um, but then his partying, his habits caught up to him,
Yeah.
and he sort of fell through. So yeah, it's one of those things where the players either have to adapt or adopt the mindset that Losada is trying to bring to them,
Yeah.
or they will quickly find themselves out of a job. So that's the reality that it is right now.
Yeah. Fair. I mean, for me, my highlight so far, I would agree on the Gressel side of things. I apologize if you just seen my camera change and you saw a little Kit Kat come up on screen there. Um, it's just the camera software that I use, and it's just decided to break on me. So, switch to the integrated webcam on my laptop, which is a much, much poorer quality. But hey ho, this is how we roll. Um, I think for me, Gressel has been a huge highlight for us. As you rightly said, he absolute workman who brings his
Pail,
lunch pail,
box,
lunchbox.
bin.
I don't know what you're talking about, but it brings his lunch to work.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's been fantastic. And the other highlight for me has been Knaus.
yeah.
I for very similar reasons. His engine is ridiculous. The amount of running he can do, and the fact that he's actually been playing up a little bit higher up the pitch as well, which is what he said
Mhm.
when I had him on the first episode of this season, that he wants to be able to play higher up. He doesn't want to be playing in the defense anymore. He's
Yeah.
tired of doing it, basically.
Mhm.
So he wants to be playing up there, and his thing that he wants to work on for this season is getting higher up, and we've seen that. And I
Yeah.
think that's been a real positive for us so far this season. I would say also a little bit towards Sorga. I know a lot of people have been, I should say, dunking on him because of the fact that he's not scored. He has had one shot on target so far this season, and that was an open goal, and he didn't score it,
Yeah.
which doesn't sound great when you put it like that. But when you put it down to the fact that the amount of running he does, the amount of pressing he does, he's a lone striker up top.
Yeah.
He's not got anyone else there with him, realistically. The two players behind him, Assad and Flores, aren't connecting too well.
Yeah.
So when you've got him, who's had Sorga, who plays it to Moreno, who's laying it off to Heinz Ike to
Hmm.
blast the ball into the top corner, which he nearly did against San Diego again. I will point that out.
Yep.
Um, Sorga can only do so much. I know we're expecting him to be this Estonian Messi. His close control, as I said before, is fantastic,
Yeah.
but he's he's not all that just yet. He's still very young. He's still very fresh, and he needs someone up there, someone
Yeah.
experienced as a second striker to work and make that partnership happen. So
Yeah.
for me, again, he's been a bright side, but then on the flip side, he's also been a dark point. Um,
And
and
I-
I have
and oh,
going,
sorry. And you did bring up Heinz Ike, and that is a name I would throw in there as well. But um, I don't, because while he did score that incredible goal,
which one,
not necessarily.
the normal one or the own goal? Because that was a pretty incredible own goal.
That was, oh boy. No, the one that he blasted in
Yeah.
against New York, right?
Yes,
Yes.
NYC. I was at New
Yes.
Jersey. I forget now.
Well, they both are.
I mean, it's New York City, New Jersey City FC. They're playing both states now, so they might as well just merge them in the Red Bulls.
You think so?
Yeah. At least they'd have a
um,
stadium.
but that's sort of the thing, is he's made flashes, and I think
Yeah.
he again kind of brings a good attitude. I
Yeah.
think he's a great presence. But the own goal, showing a bit, kind of disorganized with Briant in the backfield.
Yeah.
He's got some issues that he needs to work on,
Yeah.
and that whole sort of back line really,
It needs work.
it really needs a lot of work. So
But you got to
um
remember, two of those three backline only started playing together the first game of the season.
yeah,
Alfaro came in the day before the season began. And for someone who's just come into the team and has already scored his first goal, he's actually looked all right. You'd think he'd be a bit more disjointed than he actually has been. So
yeah,
for me, he's been pretty decent. Sights, bless him, a mixed bag, I want to say. Same with Brion, a bit of a mixed bag. But that's just down to his age, and this style of play just doesn't suit him really. I think once Birnbaum and Pines are back fit, I think we see Brion move down the pecking order, unfortunately.
yeah.
And
But
yeah, that's it. It's the defense does need a bit of work, and unfortunately, we've got players out injured, and it's going to take time before that happens. So, and then you got Bill Hamid who's out injured, who commands the back line. So,
yeah,
Sides doesn't quite do it in terms of that style. He doesn't. He's not a commanding presence.
yeah,
Whilst Bill is literally, I mean, you heard him last year throughout the season when there was no fans there. You could hear him barking his orders, and
hmm,
it was to me that was refreshing to actually be able to hear him and
yeah,
hear how vocally he is. But yeah, Sights unfortunately just isn't the same on that aspect, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. But I suppose when the defense is used to having their orders yelled at them,
yeah.
I think he just needs to be a bit more yelly, if that's a word.
For sure. And gosh, you're talking about kind of a rainbow coalition in that back line,
Yeah,
with an American, a Frenchman, and I believe a Mexican national. That's
it sounds like the beginning of a joke. A Mexican, a Frenchman, and an American walk into a bar.
yeah.
One says,
That
"Ouch."
so to a degree, like, that's quite the sort of cultural sort
Mm,
of line you got there. And I think, they really need to focus on talking to each other and getting in line.
yeah,
And like you said, Alfaro, yeah, just came in, and next day was lining up. So that's super, super tough. And
yeah,
it's one of those things where, again, it's stuff that's going to take time. Players are going to have to buy in, but this does not change week to week. So that's essentially why I brought my sort of viewpoint to this Columbus game, and
Yeah.
I just don't think it's gonna
Okay.
end the way we want it to.
I say, like I said, I'm hopeful for us. We can do this.
Bless you.
Yes, someone has to be on this podcast.
Absolutely,
I
yes.
will. I will bring the optimism, and if you want to bring the pessimism, I will balance it out.
We can play off that and look, that's the case. If at the end of the year I have to wear a Middlesbrough kit, I will be happy because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm going to lean closer, more draws and losses than
Yeah.
wins. But if it gets to the point where I'm wearing that Middlesbrough jersey, I think that'll be a good take or a good cherry on top of the season,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, so just to finalize everything, we're locking in the predictions. So I'm going for the 2-0 win. You're going for the 2-0 defeat.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. That's locked in. I've got that saved on my spreadsheet to keep a record of our predictions. So um, let's wrap the show up.
Yeah.
We've come up to a nice, I think it's about around an hour. Tell the good folks out there, if they're not already following you, where can they follow you?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at S Dakota Soccer. And yeah, from there, I do a semi-regular podcast called Soccer Made Simple, basically talking about a lot of the, for people who don't watch the sport. I try to cover, how to observe the game, how to follow it, because I think that's sort of a thing, is that there's not a lot of scoring that goes on, but a lot of what I think people watch is more of how the game flows and how a team kind of controls the field from minute to minute. So that's sort of something that I try to bring to that channel is how to understand the game, how to watch it, and even on a tactical sense, like what it means when they're talking about 4-4-2s or 4-3 or 3-4-3s and whatnot, what
Yeah.
what that all means, and the different approaches that coaches take to that. So that is where you can find me, and I'm always happy to chat and answer questions and all that.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, go check that podcast out, and go and follow him on Twitter. And I think it's the same on Instagram for you as well, isn't it?
Yep, S
Yeah,
Dakota Soccer.
cool. So go and do some following over there. And for myself, if you follow me on Twitter, thank you very much. But if not, it's at DC United Kingdom. Facebook and Instagram, because I am on there. It's not quite as regular as it is on Twitter, but I do try and post on there. Just search DC United Kingdom FC. I've had to put the FC in there because DC Comics stuff has had to
Yeah.
already taken it. Shaky fist emoji, if that's ever a thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to become a DC United Kingdom support group member, just head to dcunitedkingdom.com/membership. And there's also merch if you want it as well. So, this is a little bit out of date now. It has been updated very recently,
Yeah.
but just hit the link up in the show notes in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video as well. But yeah, thank you, Daniel, for taking the time out again, second week in a row, to come onto the show and break down the games alongside me, because it's always nice to do with someone else. It's a bit boring on my own. And for you guys out there, thank you for listening or watching if you're doing that on YouTube. But until next time, Vamos United.